Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of English with Gemma, where we take English practice and we turn it into progress. So, I hope you guys are all doing well today. I think we have quite an interesting topic. We are going to be talking about the global push for English proficiency. Let me pronounce that word correctly because it is important. So, we're going to be discussing some government initiatives and also the language learning opportunities that exist around the world. And this is a really important topic because if you are an English learner, you are probably very aware of the importance of learning English and what it can bring to your life. So yeah, let's kind of talk about it a little bit. I find this topic really interesting. I've been teaching English since 2018, and I feel like every year it gets even more important to be learning English. I'm noticing that in order to apply to most university programs abroad, or in an English speaking country, you need a certain level. And yeah, it's important for, your career, your personal life, your professional life, your education. So let's dive in. All right, so today we are talking about the future of education worldwide and also this global push for English proficiency and some of the key government initiatives that are driving this movement forward. So, from emerging economies to developed nations, governments are seeming to prioritize English as a critical, non negotiable skill for personal, professional, and national growth. In order to grow their countries, it's really important to have English because English connects you with the rest of the world. So that's going to help things like the economy and tourism and all that good stuff. So let's talk about how these new, or not really new, but ever growing in importance, these initiatives are changing the language learning landscape. So let's explore that a little bit. So, of course, let's talk a bit about why English is so important. Why is English more important than any other language? Well, as you probably know, if you are an English learner, English has become the global lingua franca. A lingua franca means the common language that is used in business, science, technology, and even diplomacy. So, lingua franca just means the language that, if you're two non-native speakers, that is the common language that you're going to have between you. That's going to be English. So, in other words, that is called the lingua franca. Sorry, I'm fighting I'm fighting a sore throat and a bit of a cold right now, so apologies if my voice is a little bit scratchy or if I'm clearing my throat a lot during the episode. I'm sorry. So, this is the bridge. English is the bridge that connects people from different corners of the world, which makes it one of the most valuable skills to have in our interconnected world. But why exactly is English so important, and why are governments across the globe investing so much into it? So, the answer lies in the fact that English proficiency opens doors to better economic opportunities. It's a critical skill for navigating the international job market, especially in sectors like technology, finance, and, of course, healthcare. So, for many countries, improving English education is a strategic move to boost global competitiveness and also attract international investment. So, to get other countries investing in them. But of course, it's not just about business. English also plays a huge role in higher education. So, like I mentioned earlier, most universities these days are offering worldwide courses and research and networking opportunities, and those are all going to be in English. So when you think about it, English is more than just a language. It's like the key to unlocking opportunities in general globally. Let's dive into the topic of the government initiatives that exist around the world and this global push for more English proficiency. So, there are a lot of exciting government initiatives happening right now. Countries are kind of ramping up, which means increasing their efforts to improve English proficiency. One example is China. So in China, the government has made significant investments in English education over the past 10 years, over the past decade. So in China, English is now a required subject in schools from primary levels all the way up until university. And the private tutoring sector in China for English is booming. Like it's really popping off and it's very, very important. In India, English is seen as an essential skill for navigating the competitive job market, particularly in fields like IT, customer service, and business outsourcing. The government has actually partnered with local and international educational institutions to provide free or low-cost English training programs. That's so cool. I think making English accessible and providing free of cost or low cost programs is so important so that English can become more accessible to different demographics, different countries, and different people with different levels of income. So in these English training programs, they're introducing English proficiency testing systems for students and job applicants. So that's really cool too. They're utilizing tools and examination processes and making sure that people are getting that English proficiency level. So that is China and India. But meanwhile, in Latin America, countries like Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina have adopted English as a key part in their education systems. So many public schools are now offering bilingual curricula. So that means that the classes and the curriculum are in both English and Spanish. In fact, several governments have actually rolled out, developed, and released new national programs to teach English to teachers themselves. So that means that they're ensuring that their teachers can then pass on the language skills to their students effectively. I think this is really important because, for example, I live in Spain. I've lived in Spain for the past almost 6 years. And something I've noticed is like the level of English in general in Spain isn't very high. And I think one of the main reasons for that is that there are often teachers in the Spanish school systems that do not have a proficient level of English, and then they are imparting that knowledge onto their students. They're often teaching them mistakes and incorrect grammar, incorrect pronunciation, which then perpetuates this cycle of just bad English level. Because, of course, if the teacher of English is not proficient, then they're not going to be teaching their students proficiency if they don't even have proficiency themselves. And I say this from experience. I've taught in the school system in Spain, and I've seen incorrect vocabulary spelling on the boards. I've seen students making mistakes with especially pronunciation that their teachers have kind of taught them. So, I think it's a big problem, and I think it's something that needs to be addressed because it's definitely affecting the students negatively. And it's something that can really easily be fixed. Like if the teachers get the proper education and they have to have a proficient level as a requirement to teach English, then I think that will really solve this problem. And it's not a problem of native English teacher or non-native. You can be a non-native English teacher with a proficient level and teach amazing English, and maybe even better than a native English teacher, because you understand the process of learning English from scratch. You understand the common mistakes or the common challenges of maybe your native language versus English and why students might be making specific mistakes. So I think non-native teachers can actually have a lot of advantages. So it's nothing to do with Spanish speakers or non-native teachers. It's just the fact that the requirement for teaching English in Spain is really not very high. So yeah, I think that's something that it's really important, and it's great to see that countries like Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina are making sure that their teachers have a proficient level of English. So moving on to the European Union, countries kind of emphasize on multilingualism. There's lots of schools in Spain that are German, English, and Spanish, and they teach subjects in all three languages. But of course, English kind of remains the top priority. Many countries in Northern and Eastern Europe, like Sweden and Poland, have seen huge improvements in English proficiency thanks to government-led campaigns and investments in teacher training. So that's really great to see. The more that the government invests in training the teachers properly, the better the level of English education. In our next section, we'll be talking about opportunities for language learners. So, what does all of this mean for you, the English learner? Well, thanks to these government efforts, English education is becoming, like I said before, much more accessible to people from all walks of life, which means all different types of people. And whether you're a student or a professional looking to enhance your career, or maybe someone who's hoping to move abroad, there are now more opportunities than ever before to learn English. So, like I said, in many countries, there are free or low-cost English language programs popping up that are either funded by the government or through partnerships with international organizations. For instance, in Africa, there's a really cool program, and there's growing numbers of initiatives that are being funded by non-governmental organizations, also known as NGOs or charities, or foreign governments that are investing in Africa, which is great to see. They offer scholarships and language programs to young people that are eager to improve their English skills. And these initiatives are helping to bridge the education gap and create a more connected and empowered population. So I think it's great to see countries helping developing countries, and kind of starting these initiatives and reaching out and sharing resources. It's really nice to see. And I think it's like education is so valuable, and especially English education. So it's awesome to learn more about these programs and maybe even get involved and see how you can help, or maybe donate some money or time to these charities that are funding these initiatives. So it's not just about formal education. There are, of course, a rise of online language learning platforms such as, of course, Duolingo, Coursera, and edX, which has made it possible for learners in remote areas to access world-class resources. So that's another cool thing about technology. It's allowing people from all over the world to access English learning resources. Many of these platforms offer free courses, and they're often tailored to specific needs like business English, conversational English, and, specific areas. Some governments, particularly in developing countries, are partnering with these platforms to provide more localized, affordable access to these English learning tools. So, yeah, it's a really exciting time for English and English learners. And I feel like opportunities around the world are continuing to improve, get better, get more accessible, in terms of physically accessible and also financially accessible. So it's really, really exciting, and it's really cool. So let's zoom out a little bit and look at the broader impact that these initiatives can have on communities and nations. In countries where English is less widely spoken, I think the ability to communicate in English can literally be life changing. It provides you with better access to global information because, I can't remember the statistics specifically, but I think it's something like 95% of the internet is in English or something. So being able to understand and utilize English is really just like opening up your world and broadening your horizons. It's allowing you to access higher paying jobs and educational opportunities abroad, things like Erasmus and exchanges where you can go to a different country, learn about the culture. Yeah, I think all of that kind of stuff really just changes your life. It allows you to become more independent, and learning English is the key to that. So, I want to talk a little bit about Kenya for a second. The Kenyan government has been investing in English education in rural areas. So that means areas like in the countryside that aren't in a big city. They're kind of more secluded, isolated. And now many young people in those rural areas are having opportunities to move from agricultural jobs, working on the farms, tending to the land, and they are able to now switch over to the tech industry and service sectors. Often remotely for international companies, which is really cool. So this has created a digital economy boom where tech hubs in Nairobi are attracting companies from all over the world. And that's all thanks to a workforce that is proficient in English. So like without that English proficiency, they wouldn't have had that opportunity. So I think it's really cool. On a personal level, English proficiency can also foster what is called, not me specifically, it's called social mobility. So in Latin America, for example, many young professionals now see English as their ticket to better careers. And it's so true because not only within their home countries, but also within the international job market, you need English to get that ticket, to get that entrance into those sectors. So government funded programs like those in Chile and Costa Rica have helped young people gain proficiency through immersive experiences, exchange programs, and then again, bilingual schools. So I think it's pretty clear that when governments actually care and invest in education, specifically English education, it's not just about learning a new language, it's about empowering entire generations. And it's important, obviously, for the younger generation, like school age and teenagers, but also for adults as well, who might want to change their career, unlock new opportunities, study new things. And it enables those people to participate in a globalized world. It's going to improve their economic conditions and create, I don't know, it allows you to develop personally and professionally, which I think is great. So let's keep motivating our governments to invest in things like this. If there are any ways that you can get involved, if you can, like I said, donate, make sure you're voting in your political elections for parties that care about investing in education. Because when governments recognize the crucial role that English plays in shaping future economies, workforces, and international relationships, I think that's honestly, it's going to make the world a better place. It's going to help us create and maintain those connections between countries. And yeah, like we have countries like China, Mexico, and Kenya, countries, they're all so different culturally, but they're all making English a priority, which I think is amazing. And they're investing in these programs that provide citizens with the tools that they need to succeed in our ever growing and ever interconnected world. So, like I said, for learners, that means more opportunities, more access to resources, more pathways to global opportunities than ever before. whether it's a government initiative, online learning, or community program, I think the main takeaway is that the future of English is looking very bright and very optimistic, which I love to see as an English teacher, as an educator. It makes me very excited. It makes me very happy. And I hope we continue in this direction. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you found this topic interesting. I would love to hear from you if you know about any government initiatives or any like cultural programs, educational programs that exist in your country. Let me know about them. Let me know what's going on. I think it's really interesting. I love this topic. I'm very passionate about it. So, yeah, let me know in the comments if there's anything that you would like to add to this discussion. Are there any programs, exchange programs that you've taken place in that you would like to do? Let me know. Let me know what's going on in your countries. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.